if your laser engraver keeps going from speed and power to dot duration and DPI and you don't know why, this is going to explain everything. And trust me when I say this, after this today, everything gets much, much easier. So let me frame the problem quickly. So if you've got text or logos, you'll go over to your settings and you'll see familiar power, speed, and lines per centimeter. They are what you define to get your engraving. And you've worked really hard and you've done material tests and you're getting perfect engravings. Well, guess what? You now want to put an image in there. In this case, we're doing my dog, Ted, and you put your image in, then you go to put those exact same settings in, and lo and behold, you're horrified to see dot duration. What does that mean? Power, which we know, and then DPI, which you're thinking, what the heck? This is totally different to what I've just seen. Well, let me explain to you in this video the key difference so that going forward, you know what you're doing and you know the difference between the two and you're not confused. So in order to actually understand the difference and why it does it, you need to know the difference between the file types first. On the left side, you'll see the pink logo and the red text. They are defined as vectors. They come in different types. You can get SVGs, you can get DXFs. You can also just get standard text like that. And when they come in, the laser sees them as a vector. And that's basically something that's made up of lots of little lines that the laser joins together to make these complex shapes. Then we move over to our images. And in this case, an image is made up of lots of little tiny dots that the laser has to do to get the different image representations. I'm going to show you a design right now. So I'm going to show you this here, and this gives you a pictorial representation. On the left, in the blue, you have vector. And as you can see from the diagram, the laser is drawing constant lines in a speed and a constant beam of power, hence why you get speed and power. On the right, the laser is technically placing lots of little dots, and we are defining the amount of dots that are in 1 inch of area, and also the amount of time the laser is penetrating that dot into the material. Now, I'm going to give you a working example now so you can see exactly what I mean by that. We are going to start off with our logo on the left. And once again, I will show you, we have the choice of power. That's the amount of power the laser beam is projecting. Speed, and that is how many millimeters it will travel in a second at that constant speed. Finally, we can specify how many lines it's going to put within a centimeter of space. So think of it as laying lines, and in 1 centimeter of space, at the moment, it will do 120 lines within that 1 centimeter. If you increase it, it means it's doing far more lines, which gives you a denser concentration. As you can see on the right, we have lines per centimeter set to 350. It's a fairly high number because I want to show you pictorially what it looks like. So I've made sure my other designs are turned off, clicking that output button there. Now, if we select process, it will show us the amount of time it's going to take to engrave this. But most importantly, for this demonstration right here, if we look at the bottom, you can see preview processing path. We're going to click on that. At the bottom, we have a slider bar and it can show the laser. At the moment, it's hard to see. But if we zoom in all the way here, you're going to see it goes from a solid, which is what it will look like when it engraves. And you're now going to see lots of little lines. And if we go to this bit here and I drag this arrow left and right, you will see, and I'll click play, you'll see that the laser is going to lay one line at a time. And it's literally laying a constant line of power. And that is what is going to build up your engraving. And it's really good to see because it gives you a visual representation of why you're doing power, speed, and lines per centimeter. There are currently 350 lines per 1 centimeter of that image. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And what I will also show you is we will crank that lines per centimeter up to the maximum, which is 800, okay? And what that will do is it will obviously increase your engraving time, but it's going to compact so many more lines within this centimeter of space. And the reason I want to show you is to give you that visual representation and the difference. You can see I'm zooming in and it still looks black because it is literally so much more of a concentrated line. If we drag our engraving line across until we get there, we really have to zoom in now because it's doing so many more lines per centimeter of space. But you can see, even though it's doing more lines, it is still engraving one line at a time. And that is key to understand vectors. So now we will turn off the output for our vector and turn it on for our dog engraving. And I'll zoom in a little bit. If we select that, as I showed you earlier, we get the option of dot duration, power, and DPI. And I can understand how it gets confusing here because we're used to dealing with speed. Speed is a defined amount. You either go slower or you go faster. It's easy to understand. But now we're given dot duration. What does that mean in terms of relation to speed? Well, it's telling the laser how long it needs to spend on each dot. And you're probably thinking, what do you mean dots? Well, let me show you right now. So I've got the laser set to 600 DPI on the right here and 900 dot duration. If we click that process button once again, we're now going to get our image and our estimated time will pop up as 19 minutes. If we click on that preview pass now, you'll see our image. But if we zoom in, this is going to start to look very different. And if I drag the slider across, it looks similar. It looks like it's doing lines, but it's not. And I'll show you right now. Let's zoom in. And as we zoom in, hopefully you can see we have got a massive concentration of lines every single time. And I'm going to go in onto this crosshair. Every single time it does it, it is literally adding a new line. Hopefully that's clear. But if I zoom out, you'll see it's adding dots on each line, lots of little dots. So that dot duration we've specified is telling it how long to spend on each dot. And the dots per inch is telling it how many dots should I fit within an inch of space. That is the key difference, and that is why you are getting the differences in the settings. And this is a really nice representation showing you how it is literally building those layers of dots one at a time to make your image. And it's why if you increase your dot duration, it's telling the laser to spend a longer amount of time on each dot. And that's why sometimes you get a stronger engraving, but sometimes it might wash out the engraving. And we can give you a pictorial representation. If I crank that DPI up to 2000 dots per inch and hit that process button, not only do we have an incredibly long engraving of 3 hours and 32 minutes, if we now open up that processing path, you'll see it takes longer because it's doing so much more in this image. You will see it actually looks black initially, and that's because there's such a high concentration of dots. If we zoom in though, you're going to see this is a really, really concentrated image. Look at the amount of dots. We have to zoom in a long way just to break them up into their individual dots. If I now drag this line across until we get, look at this. I mean, if I press play now, you're going to see it's doing so many dots on each pass of the laser that it gives us a really, really dark concentration within a small area. But the problem with that is it's probably going to come out looking black and pretty burnt. So now that I've shown you visually the difference between it, I want to tell you why it's important to understand it. And that is because as a new laser engraver into the world, or even an experienced one who's never understood it, you'll think that once you get settings for one type of file, they are going to be universal across it, but it's not the case. And the reason you need to understand this is when you take logos or vector images or text, you can have one set of settings that work perfectly, but you're always going to need to understand that if someone then wants you to engrave an image, you need to go back to the testing board and get your specific images. This is a good time for me to tell you, we have a Facebook group of communities, and in that we have our own spreadsheet. This spreadsheet has vector settings and image settings, which are really useful to help you get started. So feel free to join our groups and apply to get access to that spreadsheet. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If it's helped you out, then help me out by subscribing to the channel. Hit the like button as well. It really, really helps. And if you want more of these helpful tutorials, check out all of the other videos on our channel. And if you want early access to videos, cheap access to my jigs and access to me, including a lovely little badge next to your name, then check out becoming an L3D member on the channel. And finally, if you're looking to buy a laser engraver, in particular an xTool, then check out those affiliate links down below. If you buy through those, it doesn't cost you any extra, but it helps give the channel a little something back to allow me to keep on making these videos. Have a great day, guys. Until the next one.